enough in the picture or no?
Yeah, you're probably good.
Okay.
Just don't scoot back anymore.
Here, let me see. What's wrong with it? Oh,
You see the
Yeah, you're half carpet, half wood. There you go. Okay.
Okay.
Last time of this question. Okay, so you two have both been married one time before you met each other. So I wanted to talk to you about how your first marriage as a younger person was different than getting married again as an older person who had more life experience and who was more mature.
I got married very young, 21. I should have waited much longer, because then I probably would not have married your grandfather. But at that time, you know, my generation, you didn't want to be called an old maid or anything. And so I married at 21. My parents were not happy about it. But I was of age, and I did what I thought I wanted to do. In hindsight, I should have not have done that. But you know, I was married to your grandfather for 30 years, and it was a very difficult marriage. So right now, if I would want to give a young girl advice, and don't get married at 21, wait. So, and what about you?
I was 26 when I got married, and I was working. I met my first wife when she was in college, and I had gone back to school to get my degree. When you're young, you're full of a lot of hopes and aspirations. We were both the same religion. I thought we were on the same page in terms of having children and things of that sort. But there are a lot of questions you don't ask either yourself or younger. And you've got hormones racing through your body, and you're just full of, you know, thoughts about the future and that kind of thing. Like your Oma, I think even at 26, I should have been looking for someone different. I think you're much more attracted to a person's looks. That's the first thing that brings you to them. And then, you know, you feel some compatibility and all of that. But as you grow together, you realize either you have common goals or you don't. And we end up not having common goals. So that was the realization I had then. When I met your Oma, I had time after my 30-year marriage to think about what it is that I wanted in another person, and what it was that I had to offer, what my shortcomings were, and that kind of things too. I went into a relationship with a whole different attitude, and with your Oma, it turned out even better than I expected, because our goals are the same, our attitudes about family are the same. We like the same foods and music and, you know, and people. So all of that makes for an incredibly comfortable life. We're just a very happy time.
Awesome. So if you had to give advice to college students about family or getting married, what would your advice be?
Well, for family, if you have a big family, embrace it, because there's so much available to you with life experience with everybody that you should take advantage of. Of course, when you're young, you don't think you need that. You know, everybody is full of their own person, and but I value the big family, and your Oma has come to value that as well. My children love you guys certainly as much as they do each other, probably more in some cases. But, and when we married, I inherited 3 granddaughters. It was just, that was just amazing, because I had no grandchildren at that point. And your mother became one of my children. And I mean, there's never been a question in my mind. So I wanted to be sure, though, that she understood that I wasn't trying to take her father's place, but I wanted to be her father if she wanted me to do that. And so I've always been here for her, but I've tried to be here for all of my granddaughters as well. So, and I love you all as much as my children's children. So different. I think if college students do not have a large family, embrace the family that you have, and really listen to their advice. You don't always have to take it, but listen to it, because it may change something in the way you're thinking. That's my advice.
Awesome. Do you want to give any advice?
No, I concur with your grandfather.
Okay. Awesome. So this part of the interview, I want to start talking about Opa's hearing loss, because you know that I'm studying that in school. Yes. So how did you first realize that your hearing wasn't as good as it used to be, and when did you decide to kind of go see somebody about it?
I don't think you actually, I mean, there's no like cutoff point on the 23rd of May. You know, I decided I couldn't hear anymore. It's rather insidious. It just kind of creeps up on you, and you notice that you're asking people to repeat things more often and that kind of thing, or asking them to be a little bit louder. And you don't really think in terms of that being your hearing loss. You think that people are mumbling, and and don't talk to me when you're walking away, you know, and things of that sort. So I think probably it's the people around you who notice it before you do. Certainly that was the case with Oma, and eventually she said, you know, you have to go find out about this. And so with that, I did. But it had some effects, some good effects. But over a long period of time, it wasn't successful. And I think I've had...
this is your 3rd set of hearing aids.
Yeah, but how long has it been? 5 years? Something like that?
No, this last set you've only had it 3 years.
No, the whole.
Oh, the whole, it's been much longer than that. I think you probably about 7 or 8 years.
Okay. And it hasn't been until the last few months that they've finally gotten it honed where I'm really comfortable hearing it. But even at that, there are times when I just can't hear things. And if people talk really fast and really high, it's off the chart for me.
And a lot of times you forget to put your hearing aids in.
That's true.
So how often do you think you actually wear your hearing aids?
Oh, I wear most of the time.
Most of the time, but sometimes he will go shopping or something, or we have to go somewhere, and we're in a hurry, and he gets to put his hearing aids in, and then we're down the road and say, oh, I don't have my hearing aids in. Okay, turn around, let's go.
But a lot of times, since I work in the yard a lot, I don't put them in because I don't want to get them all dirty and sweaty. And, you know.
So what are the situations where even when you wear your hearing aids, it's still harder for you to hear?
Oh, a good example is when we went to see the Book of Mormon. We had tickets, you know, to the Book of Mormon, and it was kind of a last-minute thing, so we couldn't sit together, but we were on the same level.
Okay.
And normally he would ask me, you know, what did they say or something, and we weren't sitting together, so he missed most of the conversation and the storyline. And it was really that when he then said, if you want to go to a musical again, take your daughter or take any of the girls, but it's lost on me.
Well, and it wasn't that so much as it was even, and I had 3 different adjustments, but even with that, I could not hear the dialogue when the music was playing.
Yeah.
And so
Okay.
it was the 2 things together that
Yeah.
eliminated. If the dialogue was just by itself, I could pick up most of that. But, or music, and I've got a setting for music, and I've got a setting for dialogue, and I can phase out some background noises and that kind of thing with it. So, but that's another thing. It's when we are in a restaurant or something.
Yeah.
Background noise will pretty much kill it for me, especially if it's loud.
Mhm.
hmm
I don't. Half the time I don't wear them at our Christmas Eve party with the family because I mean it's bedlam in here.
Yeah.
But
So, Oman, going back to what you said about telling Opal what happened when you're at the musical,
Mhm.
do you find yourself doing that a lot?
Mhm.
Kind of
Yeah.
just watching out.
Even when we watch the TV, now Opa has these earphones.
hmm
He looks like a Martian watching TV. So, but I'm used to it now. And then he can hear pretty good. But if he doesn't have the like if he just have the news on and he doesn't have the earphones on, he's constantly asking, "What did he say? What did he say?"
well, it's not everything. It's like I'll miss a word,
hmm
a key word, or if there are 2 speakers and one's volume is like mine, loud, and then they're talking to a person who's softer voice, then my hearing aids are confused because they, and I have trouble with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he got into a really strange situation. I remember that I was we were visiting with friends and Reggie, and she was talking about a recipe for stewing hens. And Opa said,
For what?
"Oh, stewing hens." It was
Oh,
something.
okay.
She wasn't doing the recipe. And Opa said, "What about ceiling fans?"
And we do that a lot. I
Very
hear
strange.
I hear different words that are being
Yeah.
than those that are being said. So and I turn around out of confusion, saying, "Really? Do you really mean that?" So it's funny. We laugh a lot about it now. At the beginning, it's awful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It sounds like it would be really frustrating, especially if you didn't have any kind of techniques to help you out.
Mhm.
Like when you know that you're going to be in a situation where it will be hard for you to hear, like at a restaurant, what kind of compensating techniques do you do to?
Well, first of all, we tend to go to quieter restaurants.
Yeah.
We don't like loud places.
Mhm.
And but when we're there, if they want to put us in the middle of the restaurant, we usually ask to be off to a side.
hmm
And you've asked them to turn the music down a little bit.
I have done that, and most of the times they'll accommodate you.
Mhm.
That's nice.
Yeah, and it's also frustrating, I think, sometimes for me, because a lot of times you tell me, you mumble, quit your mumbling, or don't walk away from me when you talk. And I always have to think about that, and I have to be, normally I have a quiet voice, but I have to be louder with you,
hmm
Yes.
and that's really not in my nature.
Yeah. Well, it's not my nature to not hear you either.
So something that we talk about in our class is a lot of times people with hearing loss will get frustrated because in social groups they can feel really left out, either because they just didn't hear anything, or when they ask to repeat, the person will just say, "Oh, never mind, nothing," something like that. Do you ever feel like you kind of get left out of conversations?
No, because I think that's partly my personality. I'm not a person who will shy away from a conversation, even if I can't hear it. So, no, I have no problem asking someone to repeat, and it just that part has not been a problem. But you get 3 or 4 people together, and if anybody talks over the top of someone else, then I may miss a whole section of things.
hmm
Mhm. And I've also noticed with telephone calls, that if you have to talk to someone at the store and that you don't know that person, of course, a lot of times you will hand me the phone because you can't hear them, or yeah, and then if it is something technical or like you have to call Home Depot or whatever for whatever you're doing, then I have to take the phone and go over it.
It's not any different on the phone than it is with talking face to face to a person, in that if you're talking face to face to a person, different people have different tones and volumes in their voice. And the same thing happens on the phone. And if I end up getting someone on the other end of the phone who has a soft voice, I'll ask them, can you speak up? And even if they do that, sometimes it's not enough.
Yeah.
I think the frustrating, when you ask about frustration, with your Oma sometimes, I'll say, I can't hear you. Would you repeat that? She'll talk to me in a certain volume. She'll repeat it at the same volume, so it doesn't mean no good at all.
And then if I do go louder, then you say, "Don't yell at me."
That's a point, because people, when you ask them again, sometimes go way, they pump the volume up to 10, and it's not necessary. Most of the time, I think people with a hearing difficulty just want you to go up an octave or so.
So do you know how severe your hearing loss is? Do you know when you went to the audiologist, did they give you a percentage of loss, or did they tell you a decibel level?
They did tell me a decibel level. I've forgotten what that is now. It's the lower tones that I have trouble with. They assume, because I didn't ever work in an industry that had a lot of machines or anything going on, but they assumed that at some point I had a very loud noise experience, and the only one I can think of was in my basic training in the Army when we had grenade training, but that goes way back. But they said it could be something like that just develops slowly over a period of time.
Yeah, one loud exposure is definitely enough to do damage that would just become more evident over time. So that can make sense to me. So we kind of already talked about this question a little bit, but how do you think, because you knew Opa before he needed to get a hearing aid, and how do you think that your communication with him has changed since his hearing has gotten worse?
Oh, I don't think it has changed that much. I'm just a little bit more aware that I need to speak up, and and sometimes I think, if he is, let's say, if he's taking a nap or something in his chair, and if there's a loud noise, he wouldn't hear anything or whatever. It's kind of nice. You don't get disturbed.
Well, we had an incident the other day. A neighbor came across and he said, my son came home late with some friends, and they were pretty loud, and I hope we didn't disturb you. I said, if I have my hearing aids out, you could have a car accident out here in the front. I wouldn't know about it,
And the dog knows when she has, like, if we are still in bed in the morning and she has to go out, and the dog knows to come to my side of the bed because she can wake him up.
That's really true. But I think part of what we're saying to you in the communication thing is that we have grown so close that some of the communication is not verbal, and we just know what the other is, thinking or needing, or And I suspect that most people who've been married for a while have that.
So for people that you aren't as close with, or people that you aren't married to, or just random people like a waitress or somebody at a store, what do you wish that they knew about talking to someone who has a hearing aid or a hearing loss?
Don't talk fast, and talk loud enough. don't be shy.
Mm-hmm.
Just speak up. Those are the two complaints I usually have, and I'll ask them to speak up. But that's essentially it, and I'll ask them to slow down if they're talking too fast.
Yeah.
I mean, you get a newer waitress that comes in and gives you the special of the day. Well, I mean, I'm still on, the fish part that they're talking about. They're already on asparagus, so.
Yeah, and the kids all know that, they have to speak up with you.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I definitely know. All right, well, I think that's all the questions I have. Do you guys want to add anything to the end of the interview?
I just, when you said you wanted to talk about, growing older, I remember you were about 7 or 8. You were sitting on my lap, and you said, "Opa, I don't ever want to get old." And I said, "Why not, Maddie?" And you said, "Because I don't want hair growing out of my ears and my nose." Have things changed for you now?
Well, we were just learning about how people who have hair growing out of their ears, it's way more likely for them to get a giant wax impaction because the hair just tangles up in the earwax and turns into a nice log that blocks your ear canal. So I have to say I still stand with the fact that I don't want ear hair.
Well, every time I go for an exam, they compliment me on the fact that I keep all of that down.
It keeps the growth down.
Well, no, I mean, I take care of my ears.
I'm glad you have it under control.
Why?
No, I said I'm glad you have it under
I'm glad,
control.
okay.
Do you use Q-tips?
Use Q-tips, and I also, your Oma gives me a haircut, and when she does that, she clips those.
With scissors?
Yeah.
Do
Careful.
you just put them in?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I'm careful. You trust me.
That's awesome. Okay, well, thank you for being the subject of my interview. I learned a lot.
Okay, you're welcome.
Hey, thank you for interviewing us. That was wonderful.
Awesome. I'm gonna turn it off.